Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to Smitty's Corner. Obviously, there is somebody new here in the screen today. His name is Aaron Green. Aaron, say hi to everybody.
Hey, everybody. How's it going? I'm Aaron, as Chris just told you.
So I brought Aaron on today for many different reasons, but just a living, breathing example of what young in sobriety looks like. Aaron, how long do you have sober?
Yeah, so I have 8.5 years sober now, actually.
Yeah, which is extremely impressive. Again, just as a reminder, I have about 10 plus years now. I don't say that, out of like a competition or anything, even though Aaron and I are extremely competitive, like golf. We're playing with each other like golf.
Pretty much everything, yeah.
Yeah, but anyway, so I'm just going to ask Aaron some questions that kind of relate to, I guess let's start off a little bit with your story here. What was kind of like why did you decide, well, first off, how old were you when you got sober?
So I got sober when I was 20. I was 20 and a half. Very young, obviously.
Yeah.
And I had just gotten my second DUI within a year span, so obviously that's not good.
So you had your bell rung a little bit.
Yeah.
So you probably had like a series of consequences, just like most people. I guess, does anything kind of like stick out in your head where there was like a moment? Probably isn't like a specific moment, but is there like a moment where you're like, it was kind of like the start of the train needing to kind of turn in the other direction? Like, was there anything like that you can think about where you're like, this shit's got to stop?
So what's interesting is I really hadn't had that thought until my second DUI. I was at a party and I was drinking heavily, and we were actually watching Fast and the Furious, Tokyo Drift.
Hell yeah.
Great movie. And it occurred to me that I could do that, right? I can drift like that. Yeah, exactly. And so I told my buddy, I'm like, hey, let's go. Let me show you. Let me show you I got this. And what ended up happening was...
So you thought it was a good idea to drink and drift?
Drink and drift.
Drink and drift, yes. Gotcha,
yep.
Okay.
Yeah, which is not safer than drinking and drive. It
wouldn't have computed in my head either.
No, exactly. So what ended up happening, long story short, is we hit a curb sideways going around close to 60 miles an hour, and the car got like airborne sideways.
Jesus.
And landed in the grass. The engine, interestingly enough, like went up through the hood, like popped up through the hood. The tires of my car were now sideways. Yeah, they were sideways. It was crazy. The rear view mirror hit me in the face on its way into the back seat. It was a wild thing.
At 20.
At 20 years old, yeah. My buddy who was in the car with me smashed his head on the place where the airbag goes off, before the airbag went off, and smashed his knee really well. His knee was massively swollen. It turned out it was just like a really bad like bone bruise but yeah, it was swollen. It was huge. That was the turning point. So I was standing there. My buddy's parents came and picked him up. Didn't give me the time of day, which is wild because I was close with them. I spent a lot of time with this dude and with his parents, and they were just so angry at me. They didn't like try to help me or like wait with me for the cops to come.
Yeah, it's their kid.
Right. I can't really blame them, but just waiting for the cops to come because I heard the sirens. The neighbor whose grass I was in called the police, and that was the turning point. That was literally me realizing like, holy shit, I'm
not normal,
yeah. And I need to figure this out. And the following morning, because I had to go down to the station, my cousin ended up bailing me out, and then going back to my house with no car. I was like in tears and told my mom like I need to get help and explain what happened. And my uncle was actually in town.
This is in New York at the time?
Yes.
Okay.
From New York.
Yeah, so Aaron's from New York.
East side.
Living here in Minneapolis now.
Yeah.
But okay, so go back to it. So you're in New York, this happens, your friends fucked up.
Mm-hmm.
You're feeling terrible, tearing up, and then now explaining to your parents that something's got to change.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I was kicked out of my house at the time. Like my mom would kick me out every now and then. kind of a normal thing, right?
Get out of here, little
Exactly. And she let me stay there for the next 2 days. We figured out a treatment center, which is Hazelden, but the
Center City?
Plymouth one.
Plymouth.
Yeah, the younger
Okay,
people.
so,
Hazelden.
okay.
Yeah.
So
She
Plymouth-
figured I'd have more in common with like kids that got busted for
Yep.
drugs rather than
Yep.
people that have lost marriages and houses and
So
stuff like
for
that.
those that don't know, Hazelden and Plymouth is a youth facility for, basically adolescents that struggle with drugs and alcohol addiction, amongst many other co-occurring disorders. Whatever the case may be.
Generally mental health, anxiety,
yeah, mental
depression.
health. Yeah, 100%. So anyway, so you heard about Hazelden and Plymouth, and then kind of like how did that process? Did you want to go? Were you fighting it? Was it like how did that? How did that process go?
I was super willing to give it a shot, basically, right? Because what I was doing wasn't working, and I didn't have a house. I now didn't have a car, and I had been screwing up for a while at that point, and so I was willing to give anything a shot. And my mom recommended Hazelden, and I said yes, and I was on a plane 2 days later to go out there.
And then what?
Yeah.
So you went out. Have you relapsed since?
I have not. No.
Okay, and then which is huge.
Yeah.
At 20.
Yep.
Yeah. So okay, so you went out there, and then what's your sobriety date?
My sobriety date is
Sobriety date?
Talking's hard. I didn't get enough coffee this morning. My sobriety date is July 26th, 2011.
Okay, which is awesome. So obviously, getting sober at a young age is extremely. I know for me it was the most difficult thing that I ever had to do. I mean, you think about it, all marketing has everything to do with drinking or, drugging, especially at that age when you're curious, college, you're thinking, about experimenting and outside influences kind of promote that a little bit. But I know, so for me, I know that there was kind of like so I was playing junior A hockey. I was in Wellington, Ontario. I was probably, how old was I? I was 20 years old at the time, and I was super depressed. So we live in this town. It had one stoplight. Everything else was grayed out. Northern Canada. It's about a half hour from Belleville, Ontario. If you want to take a look at the map to see exactly how far up we were. I had already been kicked out of my first bill at home for smoking weed, and then they decided that I was okay enough to stay on the team, but put me in like a shittier household where this woman, her name was Ma, she was a saint, but she would take in kind of like all that bad boys or whatever. And so anyway, they kind of let me continue out that season, and all I did was I was just smoking weed, showing up to practice, really just an empty vessel, and trying to still pursue my dream of playing hockey. But one time, this 1 weekend, my mom came up, and she didn't yell at me. She didn't threaten to take away money or threaten anything really. She just basically I went back and she made a meal, and she just was like, "Hey puppy, come here," and then she just sat me down on her lap, and she was just like, I know. She was like, no matter what, I love you, but I know. And at that point, yelling wasn't gonna work. I didn't want to use it as it was. I was sick and tired of all the bullshit and everything that came with it. So that was extremely impactful because it just hit the heartstrings. So at that point, I knew something was wrong, but it took me another probably 2 years to really figure it out. So I got sober at 20. How old? I'm 32 now. I got sober at, I know math is hard for hockey players, but I got sober at 22.
A lot of brain injuries.
Yeah, so I got hit in the head often. So now 10 plus years of sobriety. I also kind of have the same thing coming from Michigan, like you were from New York. So I heard about Hazelden as well. And then during that time, my parents were actually going through 0809 when there was kind of like the depression with the mortgage industry. They had a mortgage company for about 25 years, and that thing went belly up. So at the time that I needed help the most, we didn't have any money. So my dad actually called up, and he was just like, I have my wife's wedding ring, and I have a boat left that hasn't been repossessed yet. How do I get my son out? So I guess Jim Steinhagen at the time, I think he was the director of Hazelden, but anyway, found a way to get me in there, and kind of we can elaborate more on sort of our experiences at another time. But other than that, have been sober since, haven't relapsed, and resided in Minneapolis. So.
What's your sober date?
I guess so. My sober date is January 1st, 2010, which is extremely weird. I don't know how it fell on that date. It wasn't like a New Year's resolution because I couldn't plan worth fuck all. Yeah, so sobriety date January 1st, 2010, been sober ever since. And I guess that kind of leads me to transition. Like, the reason why I'm still here in Minneapolis is that there is such a large fellowship of young people in sobriety. If I were to go home today, I don't know if I would make it, just because what I found here is that there isn't a level.
Keep the bang in it, because we might get some marketing.
Yeah, seriously, bang. If you're watching, we're going to fire this up every single vlog, every single one of them.
Kind of our go-to.
We love bang. Yep. We probably drink about 3 of these a day. Hence is why I'm sweating, and it's now turned into a wet t-shirt contest. So with that being said, Aaron and I both still live in Minneapolis here, and I guess, like, why do you still live here?
So what I really liked about Minneapolis, technically St. Paul. I mean, Minneapolis is cool. St. Paul's a tiny bit better. What I really liked about just kind of the Twin Cities in general was, first off, the amount of young people in sobriety. Yeah. That was what kept me there in the beginning, right? Like, having just so many other people that shared similar interests but also wanted to stay sober, that was huge for me at the time. And like you said, Chris, I don't know if I would still be sober today if I didn't have that in the beginning, especially. The other thing was, winter sucks here. Summers are awesome.
Yes, 100%.
Right? So
winter is like winter is coming, like Game of Thrones style. Like, seriously. We're over the wall. I don't know if we're
You don't know if we'll make it or not. Yeah.
We'll see what happens. That's why we go to the casino often.
Or did Lily? I don't go to the casino a lot anymore. I promise. Summers are awesome. There were so many activities to do at all times. I mean, even just, it started out as like a lot of sober activities. So I joined a softball team early on. It was a sober league, really small back then. My buddy Blake Yamlin ended up taking that league over. There's now like 24, 30 teams, like an insane amount of teams in a sober softball league. Really cool. But there were also events like volleyball. I used to play volleyball with like Daniel Plotkin.
I remember
really
you guys
good,
shredding when we first moved out here, just on Lake Calhoun over there. I'll never forget that, because I think...
We also played at Linwood Park in St. Paul. That was where it like started. And I actually got kicked out of one of my sober houses because we were playing volleyball. And then Daniel Plotkin's like, dude, World Cup finals after this. We got to go watch that. And I'm like, well, I'm going to get in trouble because I have a house meeting. But then I ended up really not caring at the time, because I still had a lot of like behavioral issues.
Oh yeah,
back in the day,
just quitting alcohol, and drugs is
it doesn't fix your brain, right?
To figure out, yeah.
So I ended up going to the World Cup. Couldn't find a good enough excuse as to why I missed the house meeting. Got kicked out. I mean,
I didn't watch the World Cup.
It was kind of more the straw that broke the camel's back. I was not doing really great things. I didn't hold a job back then, and they required you to hold a job or volunteer, one of the two. I decided not to do either one.
I don't know why.
Couldn't keep my room clean. Couldn't keep my room clean at the time. Couldn't do simple tasks like make my bed when they asked me. I mean, obviously I could, but I didn't see the reason.
No interest.
Zero interest. And so I got kicked out. I actually got kicked out of like 5 or 6 sober houses when I first got here.
The thing about that is, like, why even make your bed? I don't understand. I'm gonna crawl into. I hate making my bed. I'm gonna crawl into it later. It's gonna look the same. It's my bed. It's not yours.
Yeah. So
don't look in there. No eye contact.
I agree. And the reasoning is you develop these kind of skills and you kind of progress as an adult,
kind of like
right?
The small stuff, you know.
You can do the little things right. You can
steps.
start doing the big things right.
Before you know it, you got the big goal. Gotcha.
Yeah,
okay.
I get their reasoning. I just still think it's dumb, personally. But whatever. A lot of activities is really what it comes down to. So many things during the summer. So many young people. So many. Lake Calhoun, like you said, awesome place. A lake. They have restaurants over there. There's so much fun stuff.
There's so much, and I was just thinking, like, if I may intervene, I was thinking my dad, he used to call it, like, on the back of the license plate it says, like, land of 10,000 lakes. My dad calls it, like, land of 10,000 rehab centers. Maybe because winter is coming here, that people don't really live here, and treatment centers decided that we're going to go ahead and set up shop here. But for some reason, this is just the way it is, that in Minneapolis, if you want to get sober, or if you're trying to get sober, you kind of come out this way. So for me, it was, there's a lot of meetings with young people at it. I needed AA to express how I feel, and I just found that there's a lot of commonalities and common thinking, and is what kind of kept me coming back, because a lot of people would talk and they tell my story a little bit, and before you know it, you create friendships and stuff, and it was like a medicine that I needed to take. It's kind of weird, huh? Like, actually talking about what's going on inside can be sort of helpful compared to just patching up and throwing some pills down the system.
But it is super uncomfortable in the beginning, right? Because it's not something we're used to. It's not
boring.
something
But that makes sense, because when you don't do something, you know, it's just like you're not comfortable the first time that you do it. So anyway, but when I actually went to a couple of AA meetings back in Michigan, and it was just, you know, a bunch of old dudes sipping coffee around a round table, and I actually got pissed off. I'm like, why would I ever be sober? Like, this isn't fun. I'm just gonna set up shop for the rest of my life and just sit at this table sucking back coffee
with these
like,
old geezers.
Yeah. Sorry, old dudes, but
you guys are fine. But
no, appreciate the wisdom.
Not fun when we're 20. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, so that's why I moved out here, and why I still stay here, because fellowship is massively important. So for those that don't understand, fellowship is massively important, and part of the process of continuing your sobriety, or for me anyway. You know, without you guys, or like going golfing or just doing shit, because you miss out on a lot of those like little conversations and opportunities when somebody is available to have a real conversation that is extremely helpful.
In depth, yeah.
So
well, yeah, I mean, I
that's
actually,
what keeps me here anyway.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's the relationships that I've built, right? Like, you know, having the activities and having the fellowship in the beginning is what kept me here in the beginning. And then it's the friendships and the people that I love, that I built, that keeps me here now. It's the only reason. I have nothing that technically ties me to Minnesota, like no actual reason to stay here besides the people I love. I would hate moving somewhere else at this point, because I wouldn't have anyone. All of my connections besides my family are here now, are in Minnesota.
Right.
It's like,
and not to say that you can't go somewhere else and kind of.
Of course I could. I don't want to.
But no.
I don't. I don't want to make new friends. I don't want to make new friends. But
I don't like
really,
people.
yeah.
Don't look at me.
But yeah, it's really cool. This state's actually awesome. I never thought I'd say that. I didn't actually know where Minnesota was at the time.
Yeah, a lot of people say that.
When I moved here.
It's higher
I was
geographically than Toronto on the map.
Yeah. The bottom of Minnesota is higher than the top of New York, which I thought was interesting. Like, I thought they were like basically equivalent on the map. Top of New York, bottom of Minnesota. Wow.
Yeah. So anyway, we're gonna kind of continue to share each other's stories. Aaron will be on this often, but I guess the point of creating this vlog is to be able to make aware that there are a ton of young people out there with long-term sobriety. It is possible, and not only just for everything that we've learned isn't just for sobriety. This stuff can be applicable to anybody. You know, no matter what your struggle is, this stuff can be applicable to literally anybody. And how can you?
You mean like the values that we learn, and I guess. Right?
Yeah, no, 100%. You're taking the words out of my mouth. Forgive me.
I'm putting them in there is what I'm doing. But
yeah. Anyway, okay, I'll go with it. But yeah, no, I just want to show that this stuff works. We love Minneapolis, and we're going to continue to kind of spread this content to others that may be interested. And if somebody could be interested in this, or you find that it could be helpful, please share. Go ahead and subscribe. Check us out on Instagram, Smitty's_corner, Smitty. But no, it's the same thing on YouTube. Yeah, Smitty's_corner, YouTube. We're gonna have to figure out a name here, because if it's gonna be you and I doing it quite often, wouldn't mind kind of changing it to like Smoothie Corner or whatever the case may be. I don't really give a shit about the name. What's important is
I don't actually either.
Yeah. So thanks for tuning in.
No, just really happy to be here, and I'm excited to do more of these. Honestly.
Yeah. I'm sweating.
Are you?
Can you tell from my stash? That's the only way I can grow a stash, actually.
Wow, you actually have lip sweat right now. That's interesting. All right.